We are kicking off with WWE as during the closing moments of this week's Raw, Drew McIntyre made his return with an attack on Sami Zayn, but this wasn't how the Scottish Warrior was originally supposed to come back. PW Insider reports the talks over McIntyre's return had been ongoing, but his comeback was expected to be later this month, possibly as part of WWE's holiday week of live events. It's possible WWE would have kept Drew's return until Raw's debut on Netflix next month, but WWE changed plans due to the recent injury to Bronson Reed at Survivor Series. Speaking in a fiery video shared to Twitter captioned, "How quickly they all forget," McIntyre dismissed rumors about his WWE status following his return. The Scotsman explained that if fans don't hear from him on WWE TV or his social media channels, that they should expect every single thing said about him to be BS. McIntyre ended with the message of "how soon you all forget," and this video came after plenty of speculation about his future after he took time off to recover from his Hell in a Cell match. The grueling match with CM Punk at Bad Blood resulted in both men taking breaks, and while Drew's return was always planned, Reed's injury pushed WWE to bring him back early. This comeback has excited fans, eager to see one of Raw's top stars back, and with his holiday week appearances confirmed, we'll have to see how WWE capitalizes on his early return. But how do you think WWE should book Drew McIntyre? Is Sami Zayn the right opponent for his first feud back? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Over to NXT, and with 4 spots filled in the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge for this weekend's deadline, this week's NXT featured a last chance qualifier for those who'd lost their previous qualifiers. This 4-way saw Eddy Thorpe, Lexis King, Cedric Alexander, and Axiom, the latter of whom was accompanied by his tag team partner and someone who's already qualified, Nathan Frazier. The other Iron Survivor combatants were also around, with Ethan Page sitting on commentary, Javon Evans chilling amongst the NXT crowd, and Wes Lee standing atop a balcony level. Prior to this match, Eddy Thorpe was interviewed about what happened last week, as during a backstage segment, Thorpe knocked the NXT general manager down. In the interview segment, Thorpe spoke about the last chance qualifier and said he's in the match as Ava and Shawn Michaels reviewed what happened and saw it was an accident. It's always good to see logic prevail in wrestling, as what happened clearly was not malicious, and it would have seemed off to pull Thorpe from the qualifier over a tiny indiscretion. The match saw 4 different styles collide, with exceptional moves from all 4, leaving fans in the Capitol Wrestling Center on the edge of their seats. While both Axiom and Alexander had the flashiest moves, it was Eddy Thorpe who got the win, a victory that the New Japan alum certainly needed to step up to the next level. NXT is slowly building Thorpe up, so while his victory wasn't entirely shocking, he was not the favorite to qualify, as that distinction went to Axiom. Thorpe's slow heel turn could allow him to become a main event talent if he makes the most of his opportunities, and Deadline will be the biggest test of his ability to compete at the highest level. Are you pleased that Thorpe will join Evans, Page, Frazier, and Lee at Deadline, or should someone else have won this last chance qualifier? Let us know who in the comments. Eddy Thorpe may have qualified for the Iron Survivor Challenge, but his win on this week's NXT wouldn't be the final time we'd see him on the show. Later in the night, NXT's cameras cut to the locker room where Thorpe was shown on the ground, and he had clearly been attacked, though it's unclear who did the damage. As to what this means for Deadline, that remains to be seen, but this week's NXT ended on a huge cliffhanger, which could spell major changes for this weekend's event. Who do you think attacked Eddy Thorpe, and how do you think this will affect this weekend's NXT Deadline show? Share your thoughts on this attack down in the comments. During Raw, Seth Rollins made his return to Raw by confronting CM Punk, and after some harsh words shared by both men, the duo of former world champions brawled. Alexandra Williams, who is usually tasked with writing Punk's segments, was the one behind these opening promos, Fightful Select reports, while Chris Abyss Park was also the producer. The segment once again demonstrated WWE's storytelling being on a whole different level, as the company is set to end 2024 with exciting storylines that'll continue into 2025. The show also delivered a shocking twist in the much-anticipated 10-year anniversary celebration of The New Day, which had fans hooked as they saw the team turn on Big E. For all the harsh comments Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods made, the real masterminds were Ben Sicoscio and Kerry Hansen, as they were the creative forces who crafted the segment. This segment stunned fans, but what did you make of it, as well as the opening segment? Was it a runaway success? Let us know your thoughts and feedback down in the comments section. As World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther is one of WWE's top stars right now, and fans can expect to see the Ring General share his craft on WWE TV for a long time to come. PW Insider has learned that a new multi-year contract with WWE is being processed, with the deal being either finalized or nearing completion. Gunther has dominated since his arrival in WWE in 2019, having held gold for most of his tenure with the company, and he's also impressing a lot of people behind the scenes. Fightful Select adds that WWE has been thrilled with Gunther's work both in the ring and at media obligations as he continues to represent the company well. One WWE official said that Gunther is one of the most professional talents they have ever worked with, as the Austrian's success extends far beyond what fans see on TV each week. Have you been impressed by the Ring General, and are you excited at the prospect of a new contract being signed? Share your take on the World Heavyweight Champion down below. After last week's NXT, fans were intrigued to see what Eric Bischoff would do in his official debut, and Izzi made his way to the ring to kick off the show's second hour. Bischoff began with a history lesson of how he helped revolutionize the industry and how awesome it felt before saying how he got that feeling from NXT when he walked through the doors. Bischoff brought out NXT champion Trick Williams and his Deadline challenger Ridge Holland and praised both men before things got down to business. Holland called Williams a stand-up comedian with abs and didn't appreciate Bischoff's praise of the champ, while Trick called Holland boring and vanilla. The two went back and forth as Bischoff watched in the corner with an interested look, and Holland's jibed that Trick is soft, earned the challenger a punch, kicking off a brawl. Holland hit a DDT on Williams on the announce table, with the NXT champion being stretchered away afterwards, as the momentum going into Deadline is on the side of the challenger. Bischoff appeared via a video message last week, during which he teased a major announcement, and the ante was upped when Sean Waltman's appearance was confirmed. WWE cannot really hold a revolution under its own banner, but this kind of hype is not uncommon for NXT, and the marketing of this show worked this time around. Bischoff's appearance was its own marketing tactic, drumming up intrigue in the segment, and Bischoff didn't need to do anything to stir the pot before Williams and Holland brawled. Despite Bischoff doing relatively little, this segment worked, though it could have been better, possibly by referencing that Holland ended Chase U, something that's become an afterthought. Ending one of NXT's most popular factions should have been a central topic of this feud, but instead the group has been sacrificed to further push Ridge ahead of his match at Deadline. The challenger injuring the champion with days to go before Deadline makes him look like a true threat, and while Williams is still the favorite, NXT has created a worthy challenger for the top star. At this weekend's event, Javon Evans has a huge opportunity in the Iron Survivor Challenge and has plenty of people rooting for him, including two-time Hall of Famer Sean Waltman. The man, also known as X-Pac, approached Evans during a backstage segment and spoke of beating Razor Ramon as the 1-2-3 kid when he was the same age as the young OG. Waltman gave Evans a ton of kudos and shared just how much he believes in him, and the young OG could be the dark horse in the men's Iron Survivor Challenge. Eric Bischoff and X-Pac were both a part of this week's show, but another name from wrestling's past was also supposed to be involved before plans changed. According to Fightful Select, Kevin Nash, a founding member of the NWO, was supposed to join the show before plans fell through, leaving fans to wonder what could have been. Nash would have added a major boost to the show's star power, but news of plans being nixed come as Nash prepares for surgery following a torn bicep suffered during a workout. On his Click This podcast, Nash detailed the injury, saying that on the 9th rep of a single-arm bicep curl, he felt his left bicep cramping and knew he'd torn the muscle. Perhaps when Nash is fully healed, he'll appear for NXT, which is led by his friend Shawn Michaels, but until then, don't expect to see Big Daddy Cool on the CW. The opening match of this week's NXT was the last chance qualifier in the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge between Ren Sinclair, Kalani Jordan, Cora Jade, and Jada Parker. The captivating match saw Lola Vice interfere to attack Parker, continuing their feud that has only grown more and more intense with each passing week. Wise to her nemesis's tactics, Parker ducked Lola's attempted backhand punch, which instead connected with Sinclair, knocking her out, and she fell right on top of the fallen Cora Jade. This led to the official counting the 3 count, giving Sinclair the final spot in the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge, while Parker and Vice brawled their way to the backstage area. Jada later came out and demanded an NXT Underground match right now, and the ring was being stripped as part of the setup for the match. Ava refused to let Parker wrestle twice in one night and instead scheduled the Underground match for NXT Deadline in what'll be one of the most physically battering matches this weekend. Parker and Vice have shown chemistry as their feud has grown more intense, and their match will only extend Deadline as one of the most must-see NXT PLEs of the year. As for the four-way, this was chaotic action from all involved, and the wild ending protected everyone involved in the result. It would have been easy to have Jordan or Jade win given their high standings in NXT, or even have Parker go over despite her story with Vice still going strong. Sinclair's win was a genuine shock, and while she's been a lot of fun in her role, facing 4 dangerous women at Deadline will be no easy feat for her. With that said, a strong performance against Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, Zaria, and Sol Ruca could be a breakout role for Ren, though it's more likely she'll be the one eating falls. What are your thoughts on the NXT Underground match set to take place between Jada Parker and Lola Vice at Deadline? Who do you think will win? Sound off in the comments. AEW news now, as the Continental Classic has already taken a dramatic turn as Juice Robinson's injury has forced him to withdraw from the tournament. Fightful Select has reported that Robinson suffered a fibula break, not a foot injury as many first speculated, ending his chance to become Continental Champion very early. Robinson has been replaced in the Gold League by Commander, as it became clear over last weekend that he'd be in no shape to continue in the Continental Classic. Robinson was seen over WrestleCade weekend in crutches, but had hoped it was just a sprain, and he delayed getting x-rays until December 2nd. Once he did, the fibula break was confirmed, proving that there's unfortunately more than one way to get eliminated from the Continental Classic. Later this month, AEW will host its World's End pay-per-view, but at this time, a title match for World Champion Jon Moxley is yet to be confirmed. On the latest Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez looked at AEW's upcoming pay-per-view and shared that it's believed that the main event will be a fatal 4-way for the title. Moxley is obviously in the match, with Alvarez also naming Hangman Adam Page and Jay White, but was unsure who the 4th person would be if not Christian Cage. All 3 men have shown interest in Moxley's AEW World title, though Cage does have the contract that guarantees him a title match at a time of his choosing. Are you excited at the idea of a 4-way at World's End? Who would you put in the match if not Christian Cage? Give your picks down below in the comments. On Raw, Dakota Kai became the first superstar to advance in the Women's Intercontinental title tournament with a first-round victory over Katana Chance and Shayna Baszler. Baszler unsurprisingly didn't handle this well, and in leaked footage backstage, said she hopes Kai wins the title, as it's a matter of time before she gets injured and has to vacate the title. Sonya Deville agreed with her ally, adding that the whole situation is shit, and said the Pure Fusion Collective is now counting on Zoe Stark to win the tournament and the title. Kai's WWE run has been plagued with injuries, but she has her sights set on the Women's Intercontinental title, and tensions are clearly boiling over as the roster race to be the first ever champion. Back to NXT, as the Silver brand has done the work to get over the depth of its tag team division with weekly brawls, though real matches would have also helped this cause. With that in mind, a battle royal to determine Fraxium's next challengers brought the same chaotic energy we've seen in these brawls, with plenty of painful trikes. Frazier and Axiom watched the match closely, though Axiom had trouble focusing given that his Iron Survivor Challenge Last Chance qualifying match was coming up. Tyson DuPont was the first match eliminated after being taken out by Hank and Tank, but that didn't stop him shaking hands with Tank Walker. Yoshiki Inamura stood out early as a dominant force with multiple eliminations, which is why it was so disappointing that he was taken out during the commercial break. The match maintained a through-the-roof energy and came down to 3 teams represented, and Lucian Price was given the spotlight with a fiery run. In the end, though, it was Miles Bourne who got the win for the No Quarter Catch crew by last eliminating OTM, and there's a real chance that the faction will capture the NXT Tag Team titles at Deadline. After all, Fraxium's focus on the night will be split, as Nathan Frazier will be in the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge, and that could prove to be crucial in the title match. Hank and Tank were the best-built tag team for this moment, but the crew has the credibility to run with the gold, and it'll be great to see Bourne and Tavion Heights get a real spotlight. In the ring, Roxanne Perez ran down the competitors from the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge, which resulted in Sol Ruca, Zaria, Julia, and Stephanie Vaquer heading to the ring. The four arrived one by one, and the NXT Women's Champion reminded them that they'll need to go through one another before they have the chance to challenge for her title. A brawl broke out which saw Ren Sinclair sneak in to attack Perez and raise the NXT Women's Championship, and it made sense to end the in-ring portion of the show in this way. It was important to highlight the women competing in the Iron Survivor Challenge, but with that in mind, there wasn't much of substance to this segment. Perez cut a fairly bland heel promo about being the champion, and none of the other women had time to speak before the fun, albeit predictable, brawl. Still, the hype remains strong for what could be the most stacked field for an Iron Survivor Challenge, and we'll have to see who ends up standing tall at Deadline. Before her match, Ashanti the Adonis sent Carmen Petrovic flowers, and Brynlee Reese and Dion Lennox encouraged her to give Adonis another chance. Adonis came out to encourage Carmen in her match and pushed her out of the way of Nikkita Lyons, who knocked Adonis down instead. Petrovic rebounded and hit the roundhouse kick to win, and on a night of great matches, this will likely be forgotten quickly as it barely hit the 3-minute mark. To their credit, Lyons and Petrovic showed more chemistry than one may expect, with their similar spin kick movesets allowing them to trade strikes and tell a story of two similar women. It wasn't a massively impressive performance from either, but it was arguably the most comfortable Lyons has looked since returning to action. If solo runs don't pan out and this story with Adonis falls through, then Lyons and Petrovic have a solid case as a future tag team based on their similarities in the ring. As we previously reported, Matt and Jeff Hardy have re-signed with TNA in a huge win for the promotion that has seen serious highs since its relaunch in January of this year. In an update from Fightful Select Sean Ross Sapp, Matt and Jeff inked one-year deals with TNA on November 27th, which allow the pair to continue to make appearances on the independents. Matt returned to TNA in May 2024, initially only signing for a limited number of dates, but when Jeff's AEW deal expired and he too returned to TNA, the pair decided to stick around. Despite their success, which even saw them win the TNA World Tag Team titles last month at Bound for Glory, the pair hadn't finalized contracts with TNA until this week. TNA's current approach to talent contracts has shifted considerably, as under the old regime, the company insisted on wrestlers being under exclusive deals. This new deal with the Hardys, though, reflect a more flexible strategy by TNA management, allowing for the brothers to have a level of freedom while holding their place in TNA. What do you think of the Hardys' new deal with TNA? Please share your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. Danhausen, who for a time was one of the most popular acts on AEW TV, but it's been a very long time since fans have seen the very nice, very evil wrestler in a Tony Khan ring. Danhausen hasn't competed for AEW since the pre-show of World's End 2023, and that was only the face-painted wrestler's 7th match for AEW in that entire year. With Danhausen's contract set to run until summer 2025, fans have been speculating on his future, and Sean Ross Sapp provided an update this week. During a Fightful Q&A, Sapp shared that there had been some contact between AEW and Danhausen back in September, but there's no word on any creative plans. Sapp clarified the situation by making clear that Danhausen still works for AEW and said that the wrestler has never said or implied that he's no longer with the company. AEW previously thought that Danhausen was prioritizing indie bookings over being available for Collision, though sources close to him have said family commitments have impacted his schedule. Even Bryan Danielson advocated for Danhausen's return earlier this year, but that did not pan out, and we'll just have to see when, if ever, we see Danhausen back in an AEW ring. And we're ending with NXT as Shawn Spears shared that he's spent over 2 months cultivating the new character of Nico into his faction, who the chairman said is almost ready to be unleashed on the roster. That line confirmed that Nico will be an in-ring talent as part of Spears' group, and Spears added that there was something missing from the group. Spears vowed to make a group better than Tony D'Angelo's family before wishing Gigi Dolin good luck as she made her way to the ring. With Fatal Influence watching on backstage, Izzi Dame dominated in this match and nearly won with a big boot, but Dolin sent Dame shoulder first into the steel post. A Gigi driver later, and Dolin got the win in the second short, forgettable match of the night, but unlike Petrovic vs. Lyons, these two didn't have the same level of chemistry. Dolin was healthy but not particularly fast, leaving Dame to do the heavy lifting and bump big for the veteran, though it was at least good to see Dame on TV for the first time in a while. Before vanishing from TV, she seemed to have been in line for a major push, and she shouldn't be forgotten in the stacked roster that is the NXT Women's Division. She was never going to beat Dolin here, but she could be a regular on TV by aligning with Shawn Spears, who came out to the ring late to watch the action. While the chairman was more interested in Dolin, Dame needs his help more and would arguably be a better fit in his growing stable.